What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to talk about how you can get approved for a Discover credit card. All that and more on today's new episode of the Joe Credit Show. So let's dive right into the topic at hand, basically how you can get approved for a Discover credit card. Now, everything in this video, it's not any, I'm not making any guarantees or any promises that, at the end of the day, you're going to, 100% of the time get approved for Discover card. Really, the purpose of the video is to kind of give you an overview, an idea of what Discover is looking for to make their decisions based on these factors and based on these parameters to decide whether or not you are ready for a Discover card if you wanted one, or if you do want a Discover card, how you can get prepared to be able to get approved for Discover. It's good to know what Discover is looking for and what they're looking at, and how they're basing their approval. It's good to know that information, so before you just kind of guess and you're just running your credit up, you're just having hard inquiries for, and you're not getting approved for anything. It's good to know what Discover is looking for, at least, so you know exactly, when you are ready. So for starters, and by the way, Discover's not paying me for this video. I wish they did. They probably don't like that I'm sharing this information, but oh well, it's good to know. I'd like to share this information with the general public. That way, I want to help empower the people. So you, the viewer, you, the consumer, you, the individual, has all the equipment and all the information necessary to make things happen. So let's start off with credit score or credit criteria and what Discover is looking for. So the sweet spot when it comes to credit score is 670. And by the way, it's FICO scores that they're looking at, not necessarily Vantage credit scores. So Vantage credit scoring is basically the same score model that Credit Karma uses and many different online platforms that provide credit scores. Most commonly, the most common score model that they're using is Vantage. FICO, which has been around since like the 80s, they're the main player in this space. FICO is probably 95% used by most lenders and most businesses when it comes to financial related or lending related decisions. It's FICO score where that typically use. So Discover is going to go off of FICO score. And at 670 is kind of the sweet spot, probably 680, somewhere in there is like the sweet spot for the approval. So that's number one. So if you got like a lower credit score, like 620, 640, FICO score, and that's another good question. How do you know what your FICO score is when the majority of the scores that are provided, if you're using like the Credit Karma app, the majority of the time, again, that's a Vantage credit score. So how do you know what your FICO scores are? Well, there's really one place to get all your FICO scores. It's myfico.com. They do not pay me to promote them. I wish they did as well. But myfico.com, it's not a free service, but that is a website where you can go to get your FICO scores. Experian.com also has a FICO score capability. I think it's FICO 8 score that they provide through Experian. So those are like the top ones that come to mind where you can find out what your FICO scores, actually are. If you're basing your score, or if you're basing your decision to move forward with Discover, a Discover application based on your Vantage credit scores, again, or Credit Karma scores, again, those are Vantage scores, not FICO scores. The other thing that Discover is looking at is hard inquiries. Okay, so if there is a multitude of hard inquiries, and by the way, hard inquiries are going to be found in the inquiry section of your credit report. And inquiry is basically where a lender or a creditor or a bank, whoever, checks your credit report, obtains a copy of your credit report to make a decision on whether or not to extend credit to you or not. That's a hard inquiry. So if you have several hard inquiries, I would say like more than 3 in the last 6 months, then chances are Discover is gonna pass on you. Even if you have good credit, even the score is high, if they see too many hard inquiries within a very short period of time, that may scare them off a bit and may cause your application to get declined. And the third thing that Discover would be looking at is how many new accounts do you have open in the last 6 months. And so, if you have, let's say you have hard inquiries, but they've turned into approvals, you got 2 brand new credit cards or 3 brand new credit cards. If they see, they don't really specify what is too many new accounts open in the last 6 months, but let's just say probably 2 to be on the safe side, because it's more than 1. So if they see 2 or more brand new accounts that were open on your that reported your credit report is open in the last 6 months, like let's say 2 brand new credit cards or a credit card and a loan or an auto loan in the last 6 months are pretty new. chances are it may not completely decline your application for Discover. You may have to have a conversation, which I'll get into in a little bit, but it'll at very least possibly scare them off to where it could lead to an automatic decline if they see way too many open accounts that occurred on your credit report in the last 6 months. So those are the three main credit qualifications that Discover is going to be looking at. 670, 680, FICO Score is sort of the sweet spot. No more than 3 hard inquiries in the last 6 months, and probably no more than 2 open accounts or 2 new accounts that were open in the last 6 months. So those are the main things that Discover is going to be looking at initially to determine an automatic approval or automatic decline. Now, the second part of credit is going to be the income component that Discover is going to be looking at. So Discover wants to make sure you are making at least, or you're at least reporting or indicating that you make at least $45,000 a year on your income. They want to see low overall credit card debt or low overall utilization as well. So what that means is if you have a bunch of maxed out credit cards, chances are your utilization is pretty high, which if you have high utilization, you probably don't have a 670, 680 credit score, to begin with. But if you do happen to have good credit and everything else checks off, but you have some credit cards that the balances are really high, that also could lead to a decline for your Discover application. So they want to make sure your income to debt ratio is low when it comes to that. So they don't want to make sure they're approving somebody that has a lot of debt already on the credit report. So Discover does have some internal rules as well. So for example, you can't have more than 2 Discover credit cards. 2 is really going to be the limit. Discover will cap you out at 2 Discover credit cards. If you are a student, you can have 1 Discover student credit card. So that is a possibility. If you are a student, you can get approved for a Discover student credit card. That's probably where you're a full-time student, don't have a job. Discover will approve you for a student credit card. Probably have to have a parent on board or someone who can kind of vouch for payment for you. So something to that effect. But if you're a student, you can get a Discover student card. And overall, Discover will only approve 1 credit card per year. So again, 2 is the maximum amount of credit card Discover will give out, and you can only get 1 per year. So if you got a Discover card like 6 months ago and you want to get 1 more, well, again, you're capped out at 2, so that's a possibility. But because that first card happened, less than a year ago, then chances are Discover is going to decline that card application based on the fact that you had a Discover card within the last 6 months or within the year. So now I want to talk about what to do if you get declined for a Discover card. So if you do get a decline, if you do get an automatic decline on a Discover card, it may not be the end of the battle or the end of the attempt to get approved. You can still fight that. You can challenge that decision. And so what you want to do is you want to call the Discover Decision Hotline. It's customer service. It's 800-347-2683. That's a Discover phone number to call if you are declined. And you're going to want to ask for the reconsideration line. So when someone answers, hey, can you get me over to the Discover reconsideration line because you want to have your application reconsidered. And when you do get to speak to somebody, you want to explain how eager you are in getting approved for a Discover card and ask if there's any way that a representative can manually review your application. And if you do get to speak to somebody and have your account manually reviewed to reverse that decision, then one thing that they may bring up is they may let's say that your debt to credit limit was kind of high compared to the income. You may want to point out that if you've had great payment history, let's say you have a couple credit cards in your past and you had excellent payment history, never been late, you probably want to point that out. You want to point out your strengths of your credit report. Make sure you bring that to the forefront. So let's say you never missed a payment in your life. Say, look, that's true. While I may have high utilization, it's not common. Is just kind of it's just like I forgot to pay it down 1 month, but I pay it off usually, or I pay off these cards pretty often. But if you look at my payment history, I've never missed a payment. I pay everything on time. That may actually help get get that decision overturned. Make them feel that you know how to manage credit, that you manage credit very, very well. Now, if you had some blemishes in the past, you have some late payments in the past in your credit history, that approach may not work. So you want to make sure you have excellent payment history at least. And so if you get declined based on the balances are kind of high, or your income to debt ratio may not be as strong, just point out your strength of your credit history, never been late, paying everything on time. Point that out. Emphasize that it was kind of like a one-off scenario where a couple credit cards got reported a little high, but usually pay them off, no issue. You just kind of missed the cutoff when they report to the bureaus. But overall, you pay everything on time, you do pay everything, keep everything down. And maybe they'll reconsider your application, overturn that decline, and turn it into an approval. Again, make sure you can only have two Discover cards total, no more than one per year. Two is the max, and so if you're the only reason why you'll get declined, other than scores like less than 670, balances are way too high, and or too many hard inquiries in the last 6 months, too many open accounts in the last 6 months. As long as you don't have too many open accounts in the last 6 months, too many hard inquiries in the last 6 months, at least like a 670, 680 FICO score or better, then you have a really good chance of getting approved for a Discover credit card. So I hope this information was helpful for those that are see Discover on the commercials and say, I do like that scorecard feature, or always wanted a Discover credit card. It is a prestige type of credit card. It's a good credit card to have. A lot of rewards, a lot of things that they do for their members. So if you've really been wanting to get a Discover credit card, I hope this video will help you get prepared to apply for one, or give you confidence to move forward in a Discover application. If you have any questions about this, drop them in the comment section below, or even if you want to share with me if the information I provided is inaccurate. Happy to hear what your experience on the applications. If you want to drop any questions you have, or share your successes getting approved for Discover or declined, or if you're seeing something else, again, because credit card companies change the information up all the time. So what I'm sharing with you right now may not be the case 6 months or a year down the line, depending on how old this video is. But just drop any questions you have in the comment section below. Share your success stories, or the client applications. If you want to share that in the comment section, you're welcome to do that. Last but not least, if you are wanting to get a Discover credit card at some point, or get any credit card in general, but you have some credit issues you need to work on, if you go to my website, if you go to joechavarria.com/links, I do have some helpful resources. I talk a lot about credit, in general, so a lot of free information on there, as well as a link to schedule a no risk, no obligation credit review, where one of my team members at the credit agents will, personally review your credit file, the way I would be reviewing your credit file, because I trained them all on how to do that appropriately. They'll review your credit report with you, break things down, teach you how to repair your credit yourself if you wanted to do that, or if you want to hire them to just do all the legwork for you, they'll let you know exactly, how to do that. So if you go to joechavarria.com/links to learn more. Other than that, thank you guys for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, drop it in the comment section. If you want to stay up to date on credit content as I drop it, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Again, I'm Joe Chavarria. This has been another episode of the Joe Credit Show, and I'll see you guys later. Take care.